All right, today I want to talk about building your confidence as a guitar player. How often is it that you start to feel great about your guitar playing when no one else is in the room, and then as soon as there are eyes on you, you instantly become half the guitar player that you know you are? Well, let's talk about a few ways you can fix that. Know your gear. Now, this all starts with making sure that your guitar is well set up. Every single guitar is a little bit different, and it's important to make sure that you tweak everything or have it tweaked by a professional to make sure that it best suits your needs. Some guitar players, they like a slightly higher action so that the guitar is a little bit more resonant, you get some more sustain. Some guitar players like a lower action, right? So that they can play a little bit quicker. There's less resistance on their fingers. It all just comes down to what you prefer and what you want to prioritize. And because all guitars are different, that also means that some guitars do some things better than others. For example, this Jazzmaster that you see me playing all the time in videos, I love playing it, but if I want to play fast and I want to play something that's maybe a little bit more on the challenging side, I'm gonna pick up one of my other guitars because this is closer to like vintage specs. It's got a rounder fretboard radius, so I love the way it feels for a lot of things, but not for everything. Really learning and knowing what your guitar does well and what it doesn't is gonna allow you to be a lot more confident in what you can pull off when playing that guitar. Now, this can go beyond just the guitar itself as well. There are things like pedals and amps. They're obviously a very important part of being a guitar player and your gear. However, I think a lot of guitar players do get a little too caught up in the whole pedals and amps and gear world in general. I think it's important to know that stuff, but don't become overly obsessed to it to a point where it's kind of taking up too much mental space and energy and you're not focusing enough on actually playing your instrument. One thing I will recommend though is really learning the ins and outs of at least one overdrive pedal that you like. I know for me, when I'm playing live, I basically have one overdrive that is on at all times, so it's a really core part of my sound. So I think it's important to spend a lot of time on it, tweaking it, and just making sure that it feels the way you want it to and reacts the way you want to when you play. Mastering less is always best. You don't need to know everything there is to know to make great music. For example, when you're learning how to use scales, a lot of guitar players will think that they need to learn how to use all 5 positions at the same time. But the truth is, and what I really recommend, is mastering just 1 or 2 or 3 positions, whatever you can kind of handle at that time, because really the positions are just repeating themselves. You're still accessing the same notes, and yeah, you can kind of do some other cool things, but plenty of great musicians have made entire careers out of just 1 or 2 positions. It's why I like to teach something I call the home bass, which essentially just takes 1 position and maximizes it and fits everything in there that we need. So just to give you a very quick example, if you don't know, we take the very first scale you'll ever learn, which is the minor pentatonic scale. We'll do it in A minor right here. Just like that, we flesh it out, turn it into a 7-note scale. So pentatonic scale removes 2 of the notes, turns it into a 5-note scale. We turn it back into a 7-note scale, looks like this. That gives us every single note inside of the key of A minor. And then because of the way that relative major and minor keys work, well, the relative major key of A minor is C major. So that means that C major and A minor, they're the exact same key. So that means that I'm also playing a C major scale or a C major pentatonic. I'm accessing all of the same notes. I would just start and end at a different point. Then on top of that, thanks to the cage system, we can actually fit every single chord, the chords that naturally exist in this key, on top of this shape as well. Then we can reduce those down to triads and have every single triad available for every single chord inside of this key. Very important if you want to learn how to hit chord tones when soloing and things like that. So I'll show you the triads just right on top of this shape again. So C majors are 1 chord, the C major triad, then we've got D minor triad, we've got E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and back to our C major, which is our 1. Then once you master this one shape, you can start expanding out and doing the same thing rather than spreading yourself too thin. You can even use this mindset when it comes to chords as well. Rather than feeling like you need to learn every single chord in the book, every possible variation of a chord, just focus on learning one or two versions of a chord, getting comfortable with those first. For example, for all your major and minor chords, just learn an open version and a bar chord version and really focus on getting confident and comfortable with those first, and then you can slowly expand outwards from there. Don't be influenced. Social media is a double-edged sword. It's great for discovering new musicians, and it's great for getting your own music out there into the world. But social media is mostly gonna make you feel bad. A lot of the stuff you're seeing out there is a false representation of what it really means to play guitar. A lot of those videos with millions of views, well, they probably took 100+ takes. There's probably some post-processing on there. And this isn't always the case, of course, but it can set some unrealistic expectations. And when you see people doing this out there and getting recognition, it can be a little bit discouraging. And I know even for someone like myself, it's made me feel bad about my guitar playing. Everyone is on their own journey. And as much as some people seem to want it to be, music is not a competition. If you do want to use it, just make sure your feed is full of guitar players who inspire you and make you want to actually go pick up your guitar and play, and not ones that make you feel discouraged. Be social. I cannot stress how important it is to get out there and play with other people. As scary as it is, it's one of the best ways to start building your confidence. I do think it's important to make sure that the people that you are playing with or surrounding yourself with are a positive influence though. So if there's anyone out there that is being a little bit competitive with you or making you feel bad about your progress and your guitar playing, I think it's probably best to maybe cut them out. But for the most part, musicians are very encouraging. They're great to be around. And ultimately, when you get out there and play with other people, well, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Making music, it is a community thing. It's something you're supposed to be doing with others. If you can't find people to play with, I know that is a challenge for some people. I'd recommend even joining an online community of some sort. There are plenty out there across the internet, and just find a place where you can talk with other guitar players, other musicians, and if you can, even share your progress and get some feedback. Don't fear failure. I cannot count how many times I've been up on stage and made a huge mistake, and literally no one has noticed. Nobody, not even the most famous talented guitar players in the world, play 100% flawlessly all the time. The key to all of this is to learn how to react and adapt when you do make a mistake. One great tool is the home bass that I talked about earlier in this video. If I'm playing a song and all of a sudden I get lost and forget where I am, well, I can always fall back to that home bass because it'll just be in whatever position based on whatever key that I'm in. That home bass will always exist. And so it's like, oh, I forget what I'm playing. Well, at least I can fall back and play a little ditty before going to the next chord and kind of reorienting myself. One other thing, and it's important to say, do not make this a habit. I've seen guitar players make this a habit. It's not good, don't do it. This is worst case scenario. You forget the next chord that's coming along. So let's say the band is playing a certain chord progression and you forget what chords comes next. Wait one full beat and then come down on the next beat. So rather than just landing on that chord a little bit late and it sounding sloppy, you don't want to do that. Wait an entire beat so that you're still rhythmically locked in, and it's just going to sound like you did it intentionally. You can imagine the rest of the band, they're all playing this. And I can do this. It just gives me that little second or two that I need to make sure that I'm gonna play the right chord. These are just some of the things based on my experience that I think will help you become a more confident guitar player, but I'm sure there are many others. So if you can think of something that has helped you, or maybe that has helped somebody else, please make sure you leave that down in the comments below. From here, I'd recommend watching my lesson on visualizing the fretboard like a pro. It's just one more thing that's gonna make you feel even more comfortable on your instrument. I'll put that video up in the middle of the screen for you if you wanna check it out. out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.